Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scott Hagness. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scotty, how goes it?
It goes great. Good morning.
Good morning. We're a little early today because tomorrow I'm going to be heading up to the Palm Beach Convention Center, all of about 20 minutes from where I currently sit, to participate or to coach at the CrossFit Regionals for one of my athletes, Mayra, who's going to be competing in the female elite division. This is her first CrossFit Regionals. She's 37 years old. She's been competing competitively in CrossFit for about 5 years, maybe 6 years, but we'll call it 5. And she made it to the CrossFit Games last year as a age group, 35 to 39 age group female competitor, and finished 5th place in the world. She's competed on 2 regional teams, but she has never competed as an individual at regionals. So this is, I think, a long road to a place that she did or did not know that was going to happen. But I, judging it objectively over time, I saw her continue to progress in certain areas. And after last year's Open, we kind of knew that it would be something like burpees that would keep her out of another regional, because aside from maybe that burpee workout last year, she did very well all around. But we had a good, training year. I think a good confidence boost from not only the CrossFit Games, finishing 5th there, but also Wadapalooza, winning that back-to-back years. If there's anything, I would say that she's fairly resilient, because the amount of competing and amount of high level competing that she's done over the last, let's say, 8 to 9 months has been really impressive. And for her to continue to kind of be standing and now make it to regionals is pretty impressive.
Yeah, good stuff. It's definitely impressive. I will be watching from
Yeah.
afar.
Yeah, so the region that we're in is fairly competitive on both the male and female side. We've had 3 weeks to kind of prepare, watching all the competitors go and see where the sticking points might be. And we've ran through most of the workouts in some capacity. The 333 she ran through with some little bit of this and that kind of changed up the flow of it. But I believe she'd be able to finish under the 47-minute time cap. And looking at that workout, one of the biggest things that we wanted to work on, because we did that the first week, as soon as it came out, all right, let's do this one, because we drew a circle around it and be like, this could be a troublesome area because her running is somewhat inconsistent. Now, this doesn't mean that she's not a very good athlete who can run probably a 6:10 mile. But when it comes to already being fatigued after a 3K row and a 300 double unders, getting on that assault runner is a different animal. So for me, as a coach, what are the things that I can do to improve an athlete over 3 weeks? Well, we definitely knew that there was going to be running going into this, so we were practicing on the assault runner prior to even regionals starting. Not only
Do you guys have one now?
We have a gym, Strive Fitness in Boca, which is like 2 minutes from her house, that allowed her to start practicing on it, which was huge.
Great, yeah.
And I posted a video on Instagram the other day of her basically when she started her run training, and it kind of made my eyes hurt a little bit. And she was like, my back blows up on running, and I just get fatigued. I go, well, I could see why. So, we worked over it over the last few weeks, and the biggest changes that we made were working on that pull of the heel to the butt and working on her body position in her lean and fall, and not being in such a broad, open, reaching out position that ends up just being catastrophic for most people over time, unless you just have a huge capacity as is and just a tolerance for pain. I guess this might be one of my own biases, and Scott, you can weigh in on this as well. For my athletes, I try to make them as efficient as possible, and I almost put efficiency over capacity in a lot of ways. What are your thoughts on that concept, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the ticket to best performances, even if it takes, your performance takes a little bit of a hit to learn more efficient pattern. But I'm always trying to find the most efficient way to do every movement, running certainly included in. And I mean, most CrossFitters, as we've seen, even elite CrossFitters have pretty horrific running mechanics, because it seems like it's the one movement that doesn't really catch a lot of specialty love. Like people will, you know, refine their Olympic technique, until the cows come home, and they'll
Yep.
work with gymnastic coaches, and they'll work rowing stuff, and so on and so forth. But good running form, and then partly the amount of the massive amount of sagittal plane exercises and volume kind of tends to train out that kind of contralateral pattern that would then suddenly we have to use for this one movement in running. So it takes a lot of dedicated work to become efficient at it, I guess was a long way of saying.
It's a very good point, Scott. Just hitting on the fact that most athletes don't have a run coach to teach them mechanics. They might have some kind of endurance protocols that they'll use, whether it's one-to-one work to rest ratios or some kind of training intervals that they'll use to train their running, but rarely are they focusing on 20 to 30 minutes of drilling 3 to 4 times a week to hone in on good technique so that when they put in that volume, they're actually training proper motor patterns so that they're less likely to fatigue and to maximize performance.
Exactly.
You look at like track runners in general, you see that all of their warm-ups are technique based. It's not just get on run a half a mile, stretch out your calves and go. There's all sorts of drilling that they're doing prior to doing their intervals that not only prepare them aerobically, but also prepare their body and train and practice the movement patterns that they want to be doing. Just like there's a barbell warm-up or row drills or whatever, but running, I think, is one of those things that's just put your head down and suffer. So I don't I guess the best word of saying or way of saying is it doesn't shock me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
The philosophy behind it, is congruent with what people are doing to practice it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we typically see with those individuals that running is a real strength for in the game are almost universally people that had a pretty significant running background before they got into competitive CrossFit and they had those patterns well honed. It's not that normal to see somebody that didn't come in with that background then go out and develop it.
Exactly. I played sports all my life, and it wasn't until I started doing triathlon and suffering through shin splints, and this is why I always go back to the idea that pain is always going to push you toward the answers if you appreciate it like that. Like instead of saying, why am I hurt? It's like, what is this trying to tell me? And every time I've gotten hurt, every time I've got nagging injuries, every time I've tripped up, I'm always looking at it from that perspective, and it gives me the ability to take a positive out of something that is perceived as negative. So when I started learning how to run, the first place I looked was, towards some running manuals and that kind of thing. And then I found pose running. Then from pose running, I got certified, and then I practiced every single time I did run intervals. That was just my thing. 20 to 30 minutes of mindful practice prior to run training. And I did the same thing on swimming, and I did the same thing with relative to my bike technique. And I kind of take that philosophy. And in the beginning of CrossFit, you see everybody around you just hitting it hard. So that's kind of what you do. And then you get to a point where, once again, you kind of break down, or your current technique isn't allowing you to progress. And then you have to go back to the drawing board and work on those technical components for you to make those strides on a continuous basis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the golden nugget for today there, Scott. Pain is going to expose you, and it's going to tell you where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I know but the changes you're able to make there, I saw the Instagram post yesterday, and that was nice.
They look pretty good. I mean, even if she doesn't run too much faster, I know that she'll be better able to work through the weekend, not blowing up her back after a 3-mile run.
Yeah, totally.
And then the other thing is now she has something to go into the run in her mind of something. Okay, this is something I can control. I can't control necessarily how I'm going to feel after the 3K and the 300 double unders. I can't necessarily control the environment and the heat and whatever it might be, but I can control what I'm going to create, or I'm going to put my awareness on. I'm going to put my awareness on how it feels, my technique, and that kind of stuff, and that allows to be in a much more empowered position and hopefully build some confidence within the movements.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Nice. Any other preparations or anything?
yeah,
You
so
know, how do you?
obviously the row, we've been working on technique for a little while. That looks pretty good, and just kind of being nice and paced on the row. We've been doing plenty of touches there, 1K intervals, kind of breaking it up into a smaller component, not trying to do 3,000-meter intervals. It really doesn't make sense to me. I always try to go to that like 1 to 3 ratio. That's some things that I've seen in OPEX and some other places as well. If your test is, say, 30 minutes, you're doing 10-minute intervals. If you're doing a 3,000-meter race, your interval is going to be 1,000 meters. So it's a lot more digestible. You can work on pacing and building up some aerobic ability within those spaces. Is that kind of congruent with what you think about there, Scott?
Yeah, that is a typical approach. Yeah, I've used for a long period of time in that manner. So, yep,
Yep. And then varying
nice.
maybe rest intervals and intensities there as well.
Yeah, some variance, but yeah, good building block for sure.
Double unders have been pretty good. We worked on shortening the rope and cleaning up efficiency there. Again, we're breaking it up in 100 double under at a time intervals and getting confident there. And then obviously the run intervals. We've been doing like 800-meter goes with 400, like 800 meters at higher intensity, 400 meters at lower intensity, repeat intervals, that kind of thing, trying to build up some kind of capacity to continue to run for that full 3 miles and not having to feel like you have to stop after a mile of running.
Yeah.
Then the second workout of the day was the Linda. Actually, the biggest thing that I posted a couple of weeks ago was improving her bench press technique. And my fiance, Laura, came in, and she works with a lot of the Cressy Performance guys, and they have a bunch of lifters that are coaches that are powerlifting based and improving her bench press technique. The first week we worked together on it and we tested the workout. We're like, all right, let's see what your max bench press is for at 135 for max reps. And she got to 9 reps. The following week, after a few bench press, working her technique, give me 1 second. Got this beeping going on in the background.
I know. Yeah, I hear that. You got something backing up, barbell dropping.
Yeah, usually I'm at my home, but today I'm in the gym, so we got to make
Yeah.
do with what we got. So the bench press technique for her looks so much better. Locking down the lats, getting good thoracic extension, pulling the bar down to her chest and meeting the bar, and then just extending the arms and not letting the scapula rotate around the rib cage has been a big help for her there. And then, she's had enough touches with the barbell on the deadlifts and cleans. So bench press technique is going to be big there. And I think that's a place where a lot of the ladies are going to slow down. So hopefully she's able to kind of catch people on the bench press and then keep slugging away at the deadlifts and cleans. So that would be day 1. Day 2, we start off with the handstand walk. Ring muscle up, handstand walk, and pistols. Unfortunately, right now, Mayra is dealing with some nagging knee injuries, issues. So we're really having to work on good squatting technique and staying away from doing a high volume of pistols. But I think probably tomorrow we're just going to warm up with them and see what it feels like, and then just go at it. Muscle up technique is looking much better. We were working on that, specifically working on keeping that positioning all the way through the forward swing so that she's in that disc shape, and then driving the heels down to allow her to rotate higher through the rings. Whereas usually she'll get in that nice position and then just kind of pull. Whereas now she's actually getting that drive down, the hips come higher, and now she's catching it in a much higher position, which will take less fatigue on the shoulders and triceps, and hopefully set her up for better success on a handstand walk. Fortunately enough, one of the gyms in the area, CrossFit 1401, which is all of a throw's distance from the venue that we're going to be at, bought the obstacle, so she was able to practice that on a pretty consistent basis.
Oh, yeah.
She got on it and basically did it in her second try, since she's been living half of her life on her more than half of her life on her hands. So everybody kind of looked at her with some envious eyes as she went over the obstacle for the first time. So that will be a cool thing for her to do. And then just slugging through those pistols and making the best out of it and trying to minimize the amount of time there. so she can get back on the rings, get back on the handstand walks, and make do there.
Yeah. Is it kind of a patellar tendon issues with the pistol,
It's
or do you?
actually not. I mean, she's had a lingering high calf hamstring insertion issue on the right side,
Mm.
and on the left side, some meniscal joint stuff, which has probably
Okay.
been underlying for 25 plus years of competing.
Yeah. It's been,
So
yeah, it's
just
been, yeah.
minimizing some swelling on the left side and making sure that she's confident in her ability to move, regardless
Yeah.
of what's going on inside the knee. It's just about, okay, can we have that range of motion and can we minimize pain there, regardless of what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Just real
and
thorough movement prep and
yep,
should be hopefully good to go for,
K-tape the knee up so it reduces swelling a little bit of that edema, so she feels a little bit more comfy and confident there. And that's
yep.
that's the first workout there. The second workout of the day is going to be that power snatch, burpee over bar. That's going to be like a pedal to metal type workout. We've ran through that. She finished under the time cap there, well under the time cap there. But the focus for that over the last 2 weeks has been maximizing efficiency of the barbell, staying relaxed, but also on the burpees, continuing to push the pace there and knowing that once you get done with the 125-pound barbell, the lighter barbell is going to be less fatiguing for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we've been practicing there. We've been doing intervals to get her more confident there and work on pacing. So again, like it's nice knowing what the tests are so that you can spend most of your time specifically working on those areas. And then to bolster aerobic power and potential lactate stuff, we can do specific work there. But other than the specific work we've been doing, which has actually been relatively competition oriented, like row intervals and some assault bike intervals, all the other intervals have been breaking down the workouts into its smaller parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's day 2. Day 3 starts off with the 50s. It starts off with 50 handstand push-ups, 50 toes to bar, 50 calorie assault bike. Because of our knee issues, we weren't able to run through the entirety of the workout. So we did the first half of that workout, the 50-50-50 to start out with. The pacing on that is going to be crucial of not getting too hot before getting on the assault bike, so that the assault bike 50 cals is going to be something in which you're on it and you're holding a consistent pace, that 10 calories every 45 to 50 seconds, to give yourself a good chance at getting on those dumbbells and moving with consistency. I have a question for you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
If you are coaching an athlete who's fairly proficient at gymnastics movements, how would you break up that first half of the workout to ensure that the back half of the workout, where most of the work is actually done, is maximized?
Yeah, I think going with clustering brief breaks long before they're needed just to stay a little bit fresher, a little more aerobic, try to not flood the shoulders with too much lactate and, local acidity that then just screws you when you have to hold, you know, unstable things overhead, et cetera, later down the line.
Yep.
I mean, you're getting a big hit systemically once you get on that assault bike. Keep the local as low as you can. So it would depend on the athlete and their abilities, but I would look at, fractioning,
Right from the
short, quick
get-go.
fractions with, vibration and shake out of the muscles, very briefly,
Yep.
in those pauses.
In terms of the bike, Scott, what way, or actually, let me go back one step. You're about to go into this workout. How would you warm up for a workout like that? Because you know that it's going to be a 20-minute-ish workout, but there's some of these individual components that require such more localized muscular endurance. What are some of your things that you might want to consider when warming up for a workout like that?
Yeah, definitely. It's read the aerobic system switched on. It's not a short workout. I would definitely do that. Probably largely assault bike based. Get touches on the movement. Try to get efficiency. Depending, in this case, it's you have some constraints that if it was a single standalone test, I might consider jacking the nervous system up a bit with like just a couple of heavier reps. So this might be extended range of motion, strict handstand push-ups, just as
Yeah.
an example. But given the overall workload, I don't know that I would necessarily do it in the case of this workout. But some of the things toward the end won't really need too much specific because you're going to be plenty warm before you get there. But I
Yep.
mean, standalone test, I mean, easily 20 minutes of aerobic activity coming in already beforehand in an ideal world, which I know in the case of an event like this is not often practical. But
That's a very good point, Scott, that because this isn't not a standalone test, things change. The aerobic system being used in such an extensive manner through the first 2 days of competing, maybe you don't need to warm up the aerobic system nearly as much. That being said, say it is day 3, you've already done 4 workouts, the athlete is fatigued. How do you maximize the warm up so that you're not over fatiguing that athlete?
yeah, I would
Any
tend,
thoughts there?
yeah. So if,
Like what would an
fatigue is
assault bike?
definitely
What would an assault bike
accumulated.
warm up look like for you?
Yeah, I would definitely go on the lower end of intensity. You're gonna and the workout will have a bit of a natural ramp up anyway
Yeah.
because the handstand push-ups they're not for a high level athlete, they're not that metabolic, especially when you start there. So I would definitely go easy, probably interval style, where we decide which movements we're going to actually do in practice, and then make a little bit of a easy circuit where it's like 90 seconds on the assault bike on a basic warm up pace. Go hit a few reps of this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And then multiple rounds. That possibly with some active joint prep stuff. Just a couple quick reps that may take 30 seconds, depending on things we've identified.
Yep.
That would be sort of the.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think just the keeping moving almost allows you to ramp up the intensity naturally, rather than saying, okay, we're going to get on the assault bike, and the first minute you're going to do this, and the second minute you do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, ah, because I've done that kind of stuff before. I think kind of gaining confidence within the warm-up is almost the most important part about the warm-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want stuff to feel good, and
You want to feel
nothing
easy.
worse. Yeah, exactly. Nothing worse than you're at an easy pace on the bike or whatever, and it just feels like crap, like way harder than normal, and your body feels heavy to move around doing some gymnastics, and it's just like, blah. You don't want to feel that, even if that is roughly how you are feeling. So if you can start easy enough to make it feel easy and build up, I mean,
Yeah. The last workout is the rope climb thruster workout. It's 4-3-2, 16, 12, 8, I believe. And the weight for the ladies is 105-pound thrusters, and it's that stubby rope. That is actually something that we ran through the workout, and that was a glaring weakness for Mayra, was not being able to have the capacity to get the feet secured without tons of time on the rope. So we took a rope, we have like a short rope we use for kids. We put it on the rig, and we practice footholds. Like, what's the quickest and most efficient way to get those feet locked in? So we're going to work on a thigh pinch just to start it, big pull, and then a scissor of the rope. Less like trying to hook the rope because the rope is stubby. So just scissoring it just to get those feet secured, stand up, and then a touch at the top. And hopefully that, I'll tell you right now, that's probably going to have the time on the rope each time.
yeah, I think that is a huge, having that dialed as much as possible.
I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to take a look at Scott Panchek this last week in the regional, but he put a clinic on how you can tackle the rope, especially the descents of everything he did. He did the fire pole and then just grabbed onto the rope. It was beautiful, man. And to see he and his brother just crush that workout and actually make it to the games was actually really cool.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch that workout
I would go
yet.
back. It was the final heat of Sunday. It was him, Nick Block from OPEX, one of the other athletes who was a newcomer, and then Matt Fraser finishing it off as well. And it was Saxon Panchek and Scott, and they just crushed it. And they ended up earning themselves some spots to the games. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, that workout, I think it should be very interesting for Mayra. We'll see what she has left in the weekend. But going into that workout, we are confident that she's going to, at the very least, beat the time cap and be able to go after the workout and not have to be like, well, I wonder if I'm going to be able to do this. And that's kind of one of the things that builds confidence in the long term, because for us, we're not trying to make it to the CrossFit Games as an individual athlete in the elite division. It's using this as to push us to another level. And I think that's one of the things that competition does to us, whether it's in-house competition or whether it is out of going and actually competing in a competitive setting, a regional type thing, is that two things happen. I've always been a believer of the fact that when you look around and you see people that are very high level, you think that is normal, right? You're like, oh, wow, it's normal to be successful. It's normal to lift these weights. It's normal to be able to run like this or compete like this. But I'm understanding that the second thing that it does is that when you are competing, whether it's in-house or out-of-house, is that it pushes you to focus on your weaknesses, to approach them in a way where you actually have to become better.
Mm-hmm.
So there's confidence in the fact that, okay, what we're doing here is good, but then there's also the idea that, listen, whatever we're doing right now, we've got to continue to push. And it's like one of those incremental things, is that when you do go to that competition, oh, wow, this has this legless rope climbs, or this stubby rope climbs. We need to get better at that. And all of a sudden, bang, you got better at that. We're going to have to do 300 double unders. We got to work on double unders. Bang, you get better at double unders. And then the next competition that comes around, you already have that underneath your belt. And you're saying to yourself, okay, cool, like this is now an acquired skill. What else can I layer on top of this? And that's how we create those layers in a career.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, competition, it's a great way to identify weaknesses or things you need to progress. Provides an incentive to go after and get those things.
Yep.
And in a timely manner, generally. And it really elevates overall performance, as opposed to just trying to check off a list whenever you feel like tackling this or that.
It's a real cram session,
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, my prediction for the weekend for Mayra is I believe she's going to finish top 20. I think she's very capable of it. Anything more than that, I mean, I think that would be good for her if she finishes in the top 20. Anything more than that is a bonus. If she finishes underneath that, obviously it's a continued learning experience, but I just don't foresee that happening. I know what her capabilities are relative to what the ladies have done in the past few weeks. I know our regional is fairly competitive, but I know what her abilities are. I foresee going above and beyond in certain workouts, like, wow, surprising herself here and there. And then maybe in one or two of the workouts, perhaps going, you know what? Well, we just didn't have it. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, the only way that Mayra is going to kind of falter, is that just if you physically aren't there with that workout, it's like you do the best you can with what you got. And, that's kind of what happened at the end of the games last year, like those last two workouts. It's like, well, all right, this is what you have to do, but this is what you have left in the tank. It's like, all right, well, you just got to live with what happens, and hopefully, the luck of the draw happens, but it is what it is. So I'm foreseeing some good things, some realistic expectations. Trying to have as little expectations as possible, but I also want to stay objective and say, like, I know she's capable of this. That being said, let's take that, throw it out, and just be like, all right, in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have fun with it, and good luck.
I appreciate it there, Scotty.
Yeah.
And I know I'll have your support from 3,000 miles away, my man.
Yes, I will be watching Friday in particular.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Very cool. You got anything else there, Scott?
Nope, I think that's good for today.
All right, beautiful, man.
The buddies at CrossFit Fort Vancouver got in.
Yeah, congratulations.
Made the 10th year. 10th year. They haven't been going out with the bang. Yeah, most of them are retiring after this year from competition.
Really cool.
So
that's really cool. Well, I'm very happy for them. I've been, they've been on my radar since we've been working together. So I'm very happy that they're making it back as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck. We'll talk to you next week and recap, I guess, how everything went down over there.
Beautiful, Scotty. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good luck. Take care.
Later, dude.